what motivates you? What keeps you going? You're a road warrior. You're an aesthetic road warrior. You've got to keep the show on the road. You've only got so many years to create so many acres of beauty to make a difference. I'm also very motivated now in that I sense that I'm sort of like a single fighter against a tsunami of indifference to nature. I have this conspiracy theory that the young Turk architects are trying to design out the gardener from life. They're taking over the home and doing these gardens by numbers. So it's very important, or the next generation there won't be any poetic gardeners.
Today, alongside this lone champion of beauty and poetry, stands a large staff of landscape colleagues. And now, in addition to his Bali headquarters, Wijaya maintains planning bureau in Java and Singapore. But the increasing popularity of Wijaya's lively, detailed and joy-filled designs is not limited even to these locations. For these days, the Australian native is probably the busiest garden architect in all of Southeast Asia, and yet he is himself fully aware of the challenges posed by his nature-inspired designs.
Traditionally in Asia it's been battling nature. You've got the banyan tree and the drain pipe. You know, you're fending off nature. And you think of the great Asian cities, they're always quite bare. Big empty plains with two trees. This whole idea of the Rousseau-esque fecundity is a romantic notion of the the symbolists, the idea of all of this, fertility and richness. Your Asian customer really wants a clean space with lots of light and air. So this whole resort movement is a bit of a fad. But the hardest thing in the tropics is educating the masses about the beauty of artful, natural planting. That yes, it can get messy, but it's a very fine line between artful, natural and mess, which everyone hates in the tropics because it's associated with disease and mold. And it's fine coming here with our European eyes. We love all the mold, but to the locals, it's anathema.
To delight the eye of Bali's visitors, Wijaya created the gardens of the Bali Hyatt in Sanur. Between 1980 and 1986, Wijaya, together with his Balinese partner Ketut Masa, transformed an area of more than 14 hectares into a cultivated garden paradise. Although the Bali Hyatt was one of his first garden commissions, the designer proved capable of maintaining the fine line between natural beauty and disordered tropical wilderness. At the time, he needed to satisfy the diverse tastes of guests drawn from Asia, Australia, America and Europe. His success is confirmed by the enthusiasm his picturesque garden has generated from every quarter.
I definitely did the Bali Hyatt garden with a painterly eye. You know, you stand at the top of a staircase or an important view window and you create a big picture. It was a lot of fun to be given these so early in my career. It was my third garden, to be allowed to have 80 Balinese and free breakfast and do what you wanted for sort of 2 years. So I learned a lot there. And I started doing that parkland style, which became known as a Balinese garden. Not at all. It was a sort of English tropical tradition.
The influence of English landscape architecture on the Bali Hyatt is unmistakable. On the other hand, the choice of plants is exclusively tropical. And the clear Indonesian influence is conveyed in the choice of ornaments and sculptures. It is frankly owing to the creativity and imagination of its native artists that the gardens of Bali enjoy such a respected position in contemporary tropical landscape architecture. Naturally, in designing for an international hotel complex, Wijaya had to make certain concessions to the taste of its guests. Thus, the inclusion of a swimming pool was unavoidable. The distinguishing reliefs decorating the pool are copies of the so-called Elephant Cave Goa Gajah from the 11th century. The garden ends behind the pool, formerly delimited to the beach by colourful prayer flags. Climbing plants adorn the cement walls of the multi-storey hotel, softening the aspect of the hardened surfaces. Meanwhile, the access to the hotel's many inner courtyards have been formed by Wijaya from flowing canals and bougainvillea.
The second phase of my involvement there, after about 5 years, had a bit of a budget, and we started doing the courtyards. They trusted us enough to redo originally the courtyards that are the special part of the architecture, had maps of Bali and little aeroplanes, and I wanted them to look like an underwater garden.
The naked branches of the frangipani tree stretch skyward like ocean coral. This bizarre plant is a Mexican native, which has come to be extremely popular throughout Southeast Asia. It functions as a structural element and is a constant feature of Wijaya's garden designs. Here he's combined the bare trees with an antler fern and a bronze-coloured heliconia. Calling upon a palette of waterworks, ornamental leafy vegetation, endless varieties of palms, complemented in turn by vividly coloured blossoms, Wijaya has gifted the Bali Hyatt with exotic splendour. His fantasy-rich portrayal of paradise harkens back to Rousseau and Gauguin, whose 19th century artwork first awakened Europe's fascination with the tropics. Due to his dual cultural roots, Wijaya understands best how to satisfy this appetite for the tropics. Located on Bali's semi-arid south coast, near the furthest point of the Jimbaran Peninsula, one finds the Tirtha Resort. Here, in a project completed in 2003, Wijaya has designed the gardens in a, for him, atypically minimalist form. Commissioned by a Japanese firm, the Tirtha was conceived and built by the Australian architect Glenn Parker, especially for the wedding celebrations of its Japanese guests. This explains the surprising austerity of its formal composition, rare indeed in Balinese architecture. Mahdi Wijaya limited himself not only as to the number and variety of plants he chose for the gardens, but also in their surprisingly limited colour palette.
The choice of the colour is terribly important. The small amount of garden choice there is becomes ever so important. So here I tried to introduce some local plants that were more plum-coloured, burgundies, moyenage sort of colours to go with the Bayeux tapestries I often think of, to go with the lovely celadon green of the pond, which is to match the Indian Ocean down here. Also the lovely limestone, the bone colour of the limestone is complemented by dark green leaves, and the existing trees are sort of olivey dark green, they're sort of more dirty greens. We're on a special climate section of Bali, microclimate, which is a bit arid, so dark green cactuses, dark purple bougainvilleas, and some very strong shapes to counteract, to support the rather strict architecture, the severity of the architecture.
With a maximum depth of only 30 centimetres, the pool is the garden's focal point. Its boundaries are formed by various buildings, between which are formed various inner courtyards, each in turn bearing its own unique style. This courtyard was crafted by Wijaya in the style of a Moorish patio, with waterworks, palms, and typically rectilinear ornamentation. The courtyard in the entranceway of the Tirtha was designed in the style of Bali's neighbour island, Java, with angel figures and lotus blossoms.